Hey there, everybody. Ellyn Marsh here with Kevin and Michael from the Pod De Deux Women of Broadway Summer Series. We're here this summer to celebrate the big steps taken in our industry. The fact that 9 different women choreographed or were slated to choreograph 10 different musicals this year is huge and deserves celebration. That step has led to changes in the foundation to theater, putting women at the forefront of choreography in our industry, which is amazing. But there's obviously something else missing. People, specifically women of color, are missing.
So while we've gotten to the peak of this major hill in Broadway history, there's still very clearly a mountain to climb.
Yeah, it's true that we're all in this together. And while we are celebrating women, it doesn't go unnoticed that this industry is specifically missing artists, choreographers, and people of color.
So hopefully our podcast can open this dialogue further, and especially some of the projects coming up on Pod De Deux Podcast later this summer and fall, focusing on the racial injustices in the dance world. And while we're on the subject of celebrating women in theater, let's just get some more women of color in there.
That's right. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the show. Thanks for loving dance and theater. And thanks for supporting us. And now, the Pod De Deux Podcast.
Welcome back to this episode of the Pod De Deux Podcast. I am Michael Mahany, alongside, as always, 2 legends of the theater, Ellyn Marie Marsh and Kevin Michael Raponey. There they are.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, guys.
Hi. We are back again with another episode in our summer series, The Women of Broadway. And this week, we've got another badass female choreographer from Broadway's unprecedented 2019-2020 season for you to hear from and celebrate.
Yep. This week we are chatting with Carrie-Anne Ingrouille, the Olivier-nominated choreographer behind the international badass female-driven hit Six the Musical, which started previews in February at Broadway's Brooks Atkinson Theater, but was sadly forced to stop short of opening because it was literally scheduled to open the night Broadway was shut down due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Absolutely crazy. But as Kevin said, Carrie-Anne was also a part of this historic year on Broadway, a year where 14 new musicals were slated to come in, and 10 of them were set to be choreographed by 9 different women, which is absolutely incredible.
Crazy. Nothing like that has ever happened before. And since there isn't a Tony Awards ceremony this summer due to the crisis, but there is going to be a Grease sing-along.
Yeah, there is.
Thank goodness for that. So we are going to do our part, which is celebrating the work of these tremendous women by bringing you a chance to hear from as many of those choreographers as we possibly can.
All that aside, though, let's get right to it. Without any further ado, let us bring in Carrie-Anne Ingrouille. There she is, ladies and gentlemen. Carrie-Anne Ingrouille, welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi guys, how are you?
So good. How are you?
The perfectly placed 6 poster in the back. That is, she is ready for press. She is ready for her junket.
I mean, this is actually where it is, but it's really convenient. So.
It's perfectly placed. Do you have your press junket partner with you, by the way?
No.
Maya? Is that?
Oh, my Maya.
Oh, Maya. Yeah.
If you're just listening to the podcast and not watching this on the YouTube channel right now, Carrie-Anne has a incredibly cute, I'm guessing Chihuahua? Long-haired Chihuahua named Maya sitting on her lap. She's
a licker. I can see it from here. She's a licker.
Ellen's talking about the dog, by the way. She's talking about the dog. Okay, let's introduce everybody to Carrie-Anne. Kevin, you want to start us off with a little on-air bio?
I would love to. Originally from Guernsey, an island in the English Channel, Carrie-Anne began dancing at the Averil Earl Dance and Theatre Arts Center. At 19, she moved to London to continue her training at the Centre Performing Arts College. Since 2005, she has been a core member of Zoo Nation Dance Company, where she wears many hats, including associate director, resident director, choreographer, and teacher. Her performance credits with Zoo Nation include Into the Hoods, Some Like It Hip Hop, Zoo Nation, 10th Anniversary, Zoo Nation Unplugged, the Show of Life, the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, and the handover ceremonies for the Beijing Olympics in 2008.
Oh, that was amazing. I remember that. Carrie-Anne's other performing and choreography credits include Blaze, The Street Dance Sensation, Groove on Down the Road, Jeeves and Wooster in Perfect Nonsense, The Suicide at the National, I Can't Sing, which was the X Factor musical at the London Palladium, the 2012 International Olympic Committee Head of State Performance, and the Break-In Conventions Back to the Lab at Sadler's Wells.
Yeah, that's a lot of Olympic stuff. She is also the resident choreographer of Hamilton at the Victoria Palace in London, not the Victory Palace, the Victoria Palace. She was nominated for an Olivier Award for her choreography for Six, the musical, and she is the choreographer of the Broadway transfer of Six that has made its way to the United States via stops in Chicago Shakespeare, ART in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and at the Ordway Center in St. Paul. So please welcome, without any more further ado, to the Pod De Deux Podcast, Carrie-Anne Ingrouille. There she is.
Thank you, guys.
Oh my gosh, that was a lot. You've done a lot of Olympic stuff.
Yeah, I don't think of it like that. And then when you read it out, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, you're so international.
Wow, we try, darling.
Okay. All right. So the first thing I want to start out with too is let's talk a little bit about Six, the musical, which is the show that you have just put up on Broadway, and we'll talk a little bit about how the pandemic shutdown has affected that. But for everybody out there who maybe hasn't had a chance to see the show in its various stops in the U.S. or in the West End, tell us a little bit about Six, the musical. It's described on the site as from Tudor queens to pop princesses, the six wives of Henry VIII take the mic to remix 500 years of historical heartbreak into an exuberant celebration of 21st century girl power. That is an incredible little sentence full of a whole lot of information. So just give us a little bit of information about the show. It is awesome.
First of all, it's just so much fun. It's a real telling of the woman's side of the story. So the six ex-wives of Henry VIII have basically come together as a girl band, and like with every girl band, you know, even though Destiny's Child would have it say that there isn't a lead singer, they want to determine the lead singer of the band. And in order to do that, they ask the audience to hear their stories out and just sort of then decide who should be the leader of the band by way of who has gone through the most with Henry, like who had to deal with the most from him. And so, you know, the show starts and we basically get an introduction, a little snippet, a little sort of taster of all the wives, and then they each get to have a song, a little bit spliced up with some things in the middle, but we basically hear the story from their side of events, because I don't know about you guys, but certainly in my history lessons at school, it was very much from Henry's side, and we learnt the rhyme, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived, but that was kind of all you really knew, and the fact that there was 2 beheadings. So these women never really got a chance to hold their own in history. And Toby and Lucy, the writers, were so keen on there being a female-led show, especially considering that most of our industry is, you know, female-led in comparison to men. And it was like they wanted to have a show where females had the voice, but also, you know, everybody was a principal, so to speak. The band on stage are for female musicians, so it's, you know, very female forward. But ultimately a lot of fun, 75 minutes straight through, a lot of laughs, but also some, you know, a couple of heart wrenches in there that you're not expecting.
Yeah. Wow. That's cool. I didn't actually know the whole band was female. That's amazing too.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Now we have to quickly address the pandemic's effect on the Broadway company. You guys were on your opening night. So that had to be devastating. How did you get the news and how did it all go down?
I mean, talk about timing. I'd come over for rehearsals, then I'd had to go back to London to do some rehearsals for another show. And I came back with my dad and my agent, one of my best friends, and we was just staying in the apartment. I treated myself, got myself a sort of hair and makeup stylist, and my agent got a call at, I think it was about 2-3 o'clock, you know, saying about the mayor's announcement that day, which was to make Broadway go dark after the matinees. And even though we knew it was a possibility, we thought it would be a possibility like the following week, we didn't think that it was actually going to happen that day. So literally about 4 hours before our curtain was supposed to go up on our official opening night, and it was like, no, that's not going to happen. And I mean, my heart did sink, because you know, Six has been such a crazy journey anyway, but then to have your opening night on Broadway just kind of like whipped from underneath you was, it was crazy. But in hindsight, I actually am very grateful in a way that it happened that way around, because I feel like now there's such an anticipation of Six. Six is still so loved. Our fan base is incredible. And I think when we get to come back and have an opening night. Like, we didn't do our opening night and then get shut down. We now get to do an opening night all over again when we come back. Right. So yeah, it, you know, of course, initially it was a bit of a heart plummet, but I think actually out of everything, it probably happened. If it was going to happen at all, it's happened the best way. I mean, obviously the pandemic is not a great thing, of course, but I mean, in terms of the timing of us opening.
You're right.
I think that's so important to point out the positives of things at such a horrible time, and I think you just did that really well. So
yeah, and the anticipation, I think too, just to add this, if you haven't listened to the cast recording that's out of Six, it is literal fire. It is so good, and I think that on top of the fact that the show's had a number of stops on its way to Broadway and its successful company in the UK, but that cast recording has built such a wonderful, like, fundamental base for you guys, which is so cool. Something that hasn't happened, I feel, in such a long time with like a cast recording. So it's very cool.
No, it often gets compared to Hamilton in the fact of how many people have kind of latched onto it and then sort of listened to that tenfold before even going near the show. So, I mean, I don't mind that comparison at all. I'm good with that.
Yeah, the fans of Six. I mean, it's so funny just to be in the Broadway community for so long and watch the evolution of social media, because man, do those fans, they love the fan art. They have their favorite characters, all this cosplay. Yeah. It's a revolution for sure.
Yeah.
Honestly, like nothing I've ever experienced. And I think it's my reasoning behind this is not only because is it, you know, great musical theatre, but I feel like in a world where, you know, to see a girl band, you've got to buy quite an expensive ticket and they're always so far away from you. I feel like every Six company becomes like a very reachable girl band. So I think you've not only got like the musical theatre side, but you've also got that aspect of like a lot of young women and men looking up to these women as like a real force of a girl band, which, you know, they are, to be fair.
Right.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, it's that in itself is amazing for the theater community to see, and I know Ellyn wants to address that too. But one other thing to think about too is the fact that these historical based musicals are what is changing the landscape of professional musical theater right now. You've got Hamilton, which you are also a part of, which is a very cool thing that we'll talk about too. But Hamilton and Six, like these historical based musicals told through contemporary lenses, are just reshaping everything right now. It's incredible.
Absolutely, and it's so much fun.
I can't wait. Let's talk about creating the movement for this show. So it's a female team. It's a cast of all women. You and Lucy Moss, who co-wrote and co-directed, which is all amazing. I love your
youngest female Broadway director, is that right? Did I say that right?
She's like 25, I think, right?
Yeah.
Lucy co-wrote the show with Toby. Lucy co-wrote the show with Toby, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So in terms of the movement, how did you go about creating the sort of world and the choreography to go along with this sort of rock concert that is Six?
Do you know what? It was really great because initially, because this show had an outing once at the Edinburgh Fringe and then a very short run at the Arts Theatre. The great thing about that is Lucy and Jamie, the co-directors, they had a really, and Toby, they had a really clear idea of how they wanted the queens to be represented, how the queens might kind of fall into a modern day mindset in terms of who they're related to pop star wise. And that was really great because when I was talking to them, there was already like a very clear outline of how they wanted the show to flow and each queen to be represented. The main important thing for me is I wanted to make sure that each queen really had their own palette, because I thought, you know, not in any detriment to the show at all, but if I don't do my job properly, then I just felt it could be quite samey with seeing, you know, a solo from each queen, and then, you know, you've always got 5 backup dancers, and I just wanted to make sure that each queen their flavor was really clear, which really helped the music, because as you say, the music is just so great. So that really helped instruct me as to what kind of choreographic genre felt right. But also what was great is because the moral of each queen and the direction was so clear, I was just able to sort of build the narrative with Lucy as well and Jamie into the storyline, so into the choreographed sequences. And that's what I really love doing, is it was never going to be a show that was just like, oh look, we can dance too. It really had to express the story of each queen. And also I just wanted to make sure that in 75 minutes we had that nice like ebb and flow through, and it wasn't just kind of like bang bang bang, because obviously if it's a bang bang in your face for 75 minutes, we kind of, I don't feel, take away as much of their story as we could have done. So a lot of the groundwork was there, and then it really was a case of experimenting. We didn't have a super amount of time to experiment at first, so some of that experimentation came on as we went through different rehearsal periods, as it got you know, put on in various different places. And Broadway itself has probably had like the most tweaks because we had a bit more time. But yeah, it was super fun. And the main challenge was, like I said, I just wanted to make sure that each palette was really different.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
great.
That's so interesting to think about it that way. I love the use of the term palette and making sure that everybody has their own. Yeah, that's a
I'm
cool way
thinking
to
of
think
like a
about it.
makeup palette.
Yeah, totally. That's what I was. That's the first thought I thought of too.
Yeah,
That's very cool. He does. Look at those eyes. Another incentive to listen to the podcast via the YouTube link, not just online.
Yeah, I didn't put this makeup on for nothing,
eyes.
people.
Okay. One other question before before we're going to take a break after this question, we'll play a little game called Carrie-Anne's Hot Take, where we'll just throw a couple of questions at you that you can answer as quickly as you can. But I asked this question last week to your colleague Lucy Hind, who is also a wonderful UK-based choreographer. Did you find any major differences working with actors from the US versus actors working in the UK? And are there any major differences in the process? I only asked this just because Joanne Hunter one time told me about dancers in the UK showing up to rehearsal in socks, and she like could not believe that was a thing. Lucy said that didn't happen for her, but I'm just curious what the major differences were for you.
I always feel so bad when I say these differences because I feel like I'm being unpatriotic. I feel that in general, and I notice this a lot with Hamilton, you know, UK instruction comes with a lot more sort of like around the corner politeness and getting to the point. And I try and be a mixture of the two. I'd like to get my point across, but, you know, we have a very, you know, British sensibility about it. Whereas I feel, you know, with America, it's just like, no, you're doing that wrong. You can be more direct and they are more direct back to you. So that communication line is very like A to B without, any kind of swerve. And I think that's just that, like the cultural nature of the two countries. I mean, yes, the ladies do turn up in socks because they have to wear heels like the whole day. So we let them have like a little breather of the foot material. And I would say I think the UK is definitely getting better for this now. I always feel that America has had a little bit of a head start in making sure that their training represented what work was out there, and this kind of cross training of people doing technical styles versus contemporary styles. And I suppose that could be argued depending on where you live. You know, I'm sure a city has more you know, free reign of that than maybe, you know, further away from the city, just like here. But I feel that now things are starting to change in the UK to get people more appropriately trained to what is actually being produced in the real world, if that makes sense, rather than just going, oh no, you know, we're going to do this because this is what we've done for years. And it's like, great, there's some stability in that, but we also have to look at what people are actually going to audition for.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's interesting because, you know, the training is changing so much here in the US because of the massive growth of musical theater and drama training programs. With television series like Glee and things like that was really like one of the major, you know, shoot off points for us in the US. So I'm sure Kevin can talk about this too, but the direct line of communication, I think, has to do a lot with dance training. You know, my wife always tells me growing up in the dance world, like that you just, there was no holding back. Like the choreographer or the dance teacher just told you, no, that's wrong. And this is what you need to fix.
Oh, 100%.
I don't know.
Like, all right, love, come here, looking lovely. Yeah, all right. If you could, maybe just a bit, if you wouldn't mind, just to me, if you could. No bother.
I don't know if you knew, Ellyn was in Kinky Boots on Broadway. She loves to rock her British dialect for everybody.
It's so funny. I
yeah,
can't.
It's very good.
And then and Americans like, can you go to the left? Like,
Yeah. It's so funny that you say that. I mean, growing up dancing for me, like hip hop wasn't a thing. So like as soon as I went to college and like hip hop started to become a thing, you know, it wasn't something I was required to take. It was an elective. So I took hip hop, thank God. Because hip hop is now like a Broadway beast now too. So I just think the way that the industry has changed so much, and like musical theater used to be a whole style of dance, and now musical theater is just everything.
Yeah, even if you look at like Jagged Little Pill right now, I saw that when I was over with City Larby, and it's like everybody is getting into that melting pot.
Oh my gosh, it's incredible. I mean, it's just incredible the way that movement has become like so open and like
it's just evolved.
It's evolved so much, and it's crazy to me that
it's funny too when you talk about that everything now is musical theater, because you've got obviously hip hop like what you're saying, but as you were saying, Carrie-Anne, City Larby, and the fact that Anne Teresa de Keersmaker is one of the same choreographers in the same season as you. Not that you couldn't dance with each other, but just the fundamentals of your styles are just so crazy, and the fact that those are both Broadway shows. A Broadway show choreography is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we take a break, let's jump into our Carrie-Anne's hot take. The questionnaire here, it's just a little informative way for folks to get to learn a little bit more about you. It's questions of this or that, your favorite something, or rating something on a scale of 1 to 10, things like that. The only rule is that you just have to answer the first thing that comes to your mind. We're changing it up a little bit this week too. Usually it's me offering 10 questions for everybody, but I wanted to extend the idea out a little bit too. So I've got a couple, Kevin's got some, and Ellyn's got some as well. So I'll jump in with mine. It's super fun. It's super easy. Just a great way for people to learn about you. Okay. Number 1, burgers and fries or fish and chips?
See, that's really hard because I'm vegan. So
Impossible Burger and fries or
Impossible
fish. I don't know.
I'm going to go Impossible Burger and fries because I've heard this Impossible Burger is amazing. So
it is.
Great. Good to know.
Great stuff.
These are both vegan options. Crumpets or donuts?
Crumpets.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, I'm not a donut fan at all.
Oh, see, I'm a donut fan.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever had a crumpet, to be fair.
True. I don't think I've ever had a proper crumpet. So
I don't think I have.
Crumpets, darlings, are lovely, especially with lots of vegan butter.
I do. We have a lot of vegan butter. Okay. Last one from me. A weekend in the British countryside or the beach in the south of France?
Oh, beach south of France, hands down. I'm an island girl. Like, yeah.
Is there? I was actually just curious about that. I was reading about. How do you say it again, Kevin?
Guernsey.
Guernsey. I was reading about Guernsey. Is there a beach situation there? I mean, obviously it's an island, but like a beach that you can go and hang out at.
I think we have 28 beaches.
Okay.
All of different sizes, but they're sandy beaches. They're beautiful. Yeah.
I love it.
It's lovely.
Okay.
It's so lovely.
Can't wait to come over for some crumpets.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a little less this or that, but your favorite, but just whatever comes right off the top of your head. Favorite boy band?
Oh, NSYNC.
Oh, good.
Same.
Yeah, I think so. Me too.
I'm a BSB boy.
Oh, no.
I mean, they had some tracks as well, but I think,
NSYNC. With the dancing too. Who didn't Wade used to choreograph for NSYNC?
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh.
They kind of. All right. Favorite book? A book you could read many times over.
Yeah, it's really hard because like I haven't read loads since I was a kid. So I'll be like, but I always used to like, Narnia kind of base book. Do you know what I mean? Really kind
Fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to say The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe because I still love that book now.
Ooh,
So,
It is a good book.
one. The Lion,
this
the Witch,
is-
and the Wardrobe.
That's a good one. This is a question for everyone, but we'll start with Carrie-Anne first. What either currently, what's your favorite show that you're binging? Like your favorite guilty pleasure?
I'm currently binging Dead to Me on Netflix.
It's so good. I know. I say the second season is even better than the first.
I know, and I've only got 2 more episodes left, and I'm like, no, you need to make some more.
I know.
It's a
so
big problem right now. They're running out of TV shows
It's
to
so
watch.
true. What are you guys currently binging that you're obsessed with?
The new binge was Unorthodox. I thought I watched it in a day. It was amazing.
So good.
But like I went back in time to like the early 2000s and I rewatched seasons 1 through 5 of Brothers and Sisters. That was like my show back in the day. So I rewatched that. Those are my
That's
binges.
good. We just finished binging through the entire 3 seasons of Ozark, which was so good. If you haven't watched that, Jason Bateman and Laura Linney, so good.
Yeah.
But we just started, and now we're currently binging Killing Eve, which if you haven't watched that is
on AMC, right?
It's
Oh, right.
we're watching it through Hulu. I think it's on BBC actually.
BBC, that's right.
Yeah, it's on BBC. We were supposed to leave for France yesterday, but because of the pandemic, that obviously isn't happening. But so we're feeling very international, and Killing Eve is very international. It's a wonderful show. Sandra Oh is so good. The whole cast. Anyway, all right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to play a little Broadway trivia hosted by our very own Broadway trivia host, Ellyn Marie Marsh. And we'll see you on the other side. We'll be right back.
Hey listeners, it's Clara here.
And it is Michael.
Choreographers, raise your hand if you could use more time, space, and money to create your work.
Oh my, it's like every hand in the city just went up. Like what? 1, 2 million hands?
All of them, and we can
All
see
of
them
them.
all from
And
our tiny
fingers, too.
windowless recording studio. All the fingers.
Okay, maybe not.
We all know the answer is all of you.
So, enter the CUNY Dance Initiative, or CDI. CDI is a residency program that opens the doors of City University of New York campuses to professional choreographers across New York City's 5 boroughs. They can offer you free space to create, teach, and perform, as well as financial support.
CDI has already helped over 130 local artists launch new work, develop new audiences, and establish new relationships with NYC Performing Arts Centers.
And you know what? You could be next.
Actually, Michael, we've interviewed a ton of CDI resident choreographers over the years, I think during your tenure and before. And I will say they're just always such innovators in the dance community, and they're a really diverse collection of artists.
We have so many incredible choreographers. You and I had the chance to talk with Tiffany Mills last year. We'll never, of course, forget Jess's awesome interview with 2019 Bessie Award winner, tap dancer Caleb Teicher.
And a while ago, we talked to Efrata Sherry, who's a B-girl and a house dancer. We talked to Annabella Lanzu, Benny Royce Royan. We even got to interview the director of CUNY Dance Initiative, Alyssa Alpine.
And you can find all of those interviews and more at podde.com, as well as Pod De Deux on iTunes. Now, missing this once-a-year application to be a CDI resident is heartbreaking. So do not let it happen to you. Make sure you jump over to the website, cuny.edu/dance initiative, and join their email list. And check out the homepage for application alerts, insider ticket discounts, and so much more. And if you just love dance, make sure you follow at CDI_dance on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Okay.
Back to the pod.
We should be recording this. We could get a sponsorship from you.
I've just got a little white lily going on.
DW Home.
I wish I could do a scent thing.
I know.
No, me too. I feel I'm like.
I just like
It just
a
smells
candle that's a boyfriend. That's really cute.
It really, he's my boyfriend. His name's Warm Tobacco Pipe. I just call him Pipey. He's great.
Yeah, we don't have a candle in here. It just smells like
Could be
it smelled like
worse.
wet dog yesterday because the dog was running around in the plants. But okay, welcome back to this Pod De Deux podcast. We'll leave that one in. Welcome back to the Pod De Deux podcast. I am Michael Mahany, alongside Kevin Michael Raponey, who's supposed to be reading this promo. So go ahead,
It's okay.
Kev.
It's okay. Welcome back to the Pod De Deux Podcast. Kevin Michael Raponey here, and it's time to play a little Broadway trivia hosted by our very own Ellyn Marie Marsh, who, by the way, you can catch hosting Broadway trivia every Thursday night live on Theater Mania's YouTube and Facebook pages.
Wow, what an intro. You guys are so great at the intros. Thank you, Kevin. So a quick review of the game. I will ask each team a question. Carrie-Anne, you'll play against Michael and Kevin. And after your question, you get a few seconds to come up with the answer. If you don't know, the other team does have a chance to steal. First to 5 points wins. You have some pretty, we've got some pretty good players in the past, Carrie-Anne, so you have quite a legacy to live up to. Are you ready?
Yeah,
I'm really competitive. I'm already sweating.
That's good. We
me
like
too.
competitive.
If
right, we'll
it's anything like we've done in the past, you don't have much to worry about.
Oh,
That's all we'll say.
Yeah.
You guys are sore losers. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll start with an easy one. Who choreographed the 2020 Broadway musical about Henry VIII and his wives that transferred to the U.S. from the West End production?
Me!
Yeah. Wow. That's really good.
Ah,
All right.
yeah.
All right.
Great.
This is
Cool.
easy. All right, this is easy, guys. All right.
Oh yeah. Is
This
it?
is actually like old school spelling bee. So you ready?
Okay.
Spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Spell it like spelling bee style?
Yeah, like spelling bee style.
Together? Okay.
I mean, you could, but you know, whatever you can do. But you only have a couple seconds. Ready?
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Right.
SUPER
Uh-huh.
KAL if fragile. I don't. Kevin.
Cali, like California, maybe? CALI.
Uh-huh.
FRAJ.
Nope. Already wrong.
Oh, man.
Carrie-Anne, would you like to steal?
My gosh.
Oh yeah.
The
Do
only
you
way I
know the
can
song?
do
If you
it-
know the song.
I
you
remember
can-
the song.
I remember
Uh-huh.
the song, yeah.
Okay.
SUPER.
CALIF
Uh-huh.
RAGIL
Uh-huh.
ISTICEXP IALID CIOUS.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wish I knew.
You should automatically win just for getting that. That was
Yeah,
under
you
the
nailed
pressure.
it.
That was
You
incredible.
definitely nailed it.
I wish I knew the choreo. If anyone knows the choreo, can they teach me?
Yeah. Me too.
I
I,
think
I
I
tried
saw
to learn
the-
it once. It's
The
very
paper
hard.
note production,
I'm doing it.
it was amazing. I think
Okay.
that's such a fun
So
number.
back to Carrie with her question. Here we go. Which two 2020 Broadway choreographers were nominated for Olivier's in 2019?
Oh, that's a good question,
Oh,
actually.
that's a good question.
Me?
Yeah?
It's come from away, wasn't it? Kelly Devine?
Kelly Divine?
Yeah, that's right.
Right, Divine.
Yes. Kelly
Divine.
Divine. Very, very good. All right.
Well, that was a good question, Ellen.
Thank you
I
so
can't
much.
even. I can't even be mad about that one.
I am a trivia master, you know.
That's true.
Okay, over to Michael and Kevin, who are now
down 3 points, which means they're about
well.
to lose. Okay.
What's new?
I'm a little bit over you guys complaining about the difficulty of the questions. So here's one I know you know.
Okay.
Name all 9 of the female 2020 Broadway choreographers. You have 3 seconds. Go.
3 seconds
3
for 9
seconds.
people?
Carrie-Anne,
that
Kelly
was it.
Devine, Sonia Taye,
Lucy Hines.
Lucy Hine, Anne Teresa DeKeersmaker, Anne Yee. Who else?
Lauren Latero.
Lauren Lataro. Yeah. What are we on? That's 7. Oh, Lizzie Gee. Lizzie Gee.
Okay.
That's it. That's
I
number
think
9.
that's it, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that
Lizzie
was way
Gee,
over
of
3
course.
seconds.
Yeah,
but
of course it was way over 3.
That was like 67 seconds. But
You're right, and I should have been able to like pull that out as quickly as I possibly could, because that's literally all I've been thinking about for the last month and a half. Yeah.
Okay, so final question, which is worth 122 points.
Perfect.
Whoever gets the answers first wins the whole game. Ready?
Okay.
Between 2000 and 2010, how many Oliviers did Sir Matthew Bourne win?
Oh, we were just talking about him. I have no idea. Between when?
Between 2000 and 2010.
I want to say 3. Or
3 is
3?
correct.
Well, really?
3!
Is there a 4th in there somewhere, or a nomination or something, though?
He was nominated for a 4th, but he didn't win for Oliver.
Right.
Oh, wow.
It was
I was going to
My
guess,
Fair
with that
Lady.
question, I was going to guess like 9 or something.
I was
but
going to
don't-
guess like
yeah.
10, I think, yeah.
My Fair
Wow.
Lady, Play with No Words, and Mary Poppins. And then the 4th nomination, he did not win for Oliver. Carrie-Anne wins!
Ah, shocker.
I don't know if you know this, but winning trivia has a direct correlation to winning a Tony. So it's like,
It's on.
yeah.
You're going to have to change it to the Victory Palace now. It's not the Victoria Palace. It is now officially the Victory Palace. Or you could just call your apartment the Victory Palace.
Oh, yes.
Or
When
your
I buy a
your
house,
flat.
that's the thing.
Or
My
your
flat.
house. Yes. Okay. That was enough of that business. Ellyn, always with the shenanigans and the trivia. As Kevin said, you can catch her live on YouTube and Theater Mania's YouTube channels every Thursday with Broadway trivia. Okay, back to the Pod De Deux Podcast interview situation.
We need to get back to the beginning here, okay? Take us back to the beginning. You grew up on an island in the middle of the English Channel. So tell us a bit about how you initially found your way to dance.
The joke thing was at about, well, from the minute I could stand, and considering my age and who was advertising a certain fizzy drinks brand. So when Michael Jackson was doing the Pepsi adverts, apparently I would dance around in the lounge in my nappy whenever things like that came on TV. So my mum's friends were like, you have to take her to dancing. So at 2.5, she took me to baby ballet thinking, oh, she'll do like one lesson and then, she won't be entertained enough. And she was wrong, and kept doing loads of ballet class. That turned into, oh, does Carrie want to start modern? Oh, does Carrie want to start tap? Oh, does Carrie want to do the festivals? Does Carrie want to do this exam? And it just sort of got to the point where I was basically living at my dance school. And I really wanted to come over to dance college because on the island, when I was growing up, there wasn't any dance A-level or further education. So it was the case that you had to move over to the mainland to continue your training. But a lot of the colleges that I wanted to go to that had a mix of styles weren't necessarily what we call accredited, which basically meant that I couldn't get any funding from the states of Guernsey to help my parents fund me to go over. So rather than going at 18, I kind of worked for a year, about 6 jobs to get like some money together to sort of support me with my flat and food and any exams that I would have to take so that my parents could just thankfully and luckily concentrate on the fees. So I moved over to London at 19, went to the Centre Performing Arts College, did like a 3-year musical theatre course. And like I said, did a little bit of everything. But even like you say, at that point, so this would have been early 2000s. At that point, you know, anything sort of hip hop or commercial related, or video dancing, as they would have called it back in the day, was just like, oh, no one makes a career of that. You know, we're not going to teach that. That's just, you know, something you do for fun. And when I left college, I was very grateful for all the training I'd had, but I wanted to dip my toe into other styles. I'd done a bit of like break dancing as a kid, because there was a breaking crew on the island, and I just used to always like bug them and be like, can I just come and join in? I just started doing, you know, a lot of hip hop classes at like Pineapple and other studios like that. And that's kind of what got me into that side of things, and led on to auditioning for various different companies and things like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think about 19 years old, and you know, obviously I went to school for 4 years, and then I went home, and I was too scared to move. Like 19 years old, like were you scared to venture off to like big London?
Yeah, I wanted to go at 16. But my parents were like, you are not leaving an island at 16 years old and going to London.
Right.
Like,
good parents.
They're like, first of all, you're getting your A-levels in case dance doesn't work out. I don't know what it is in the States, but basically the exams you do at, you know, 16 to 18. So no, at first it was a massive shock, just in terms of like suddenly, you know that you're going to have to be responsible for yourself, but to suddenly have that handed to you, that was a bit of a shock. But like I soon was like, I love this. I mean, it was hard, but that's half of what I loved about it, because you know, you're there to do the thing that you love, right? So it's like sink or swim. You got to do it.
So tell us a little bit about Zoo Nation. How did you get affiliated with Katie Prince and that company? And so for anyone out there, Zoo Nation describes itself as groundbreaking storytellers creating original music and dance to inspire the next generation of theater goers and theater makers. How did you sort of get involved with that?
So it was after leaving college, and I was taking these classes, and I was going to various different auditions for everything, but also some hip hop companies. Zoo Nation was one of the hip hop companies that I auditioned for. And on that day, they were auditioning for like a youth company, an adult company, and then kind of what they called like a next generation company, who were people sort of still in training. And luckily I got into the adult company, and we just started doing, at that point it was a non-profit organization. So we were doing, performances and training pretty much for free. We were just, wanting to excel our skills and start to get known. And then luckily Kate managed to, get funding from various different places, whether that was the Arts Council England or, private investors, and was able to start creating these wonderful pieces of work like Into the Hoods. And I started, performing in some of these shows. We always had to audition to be a part of them. And just luckily, as I was working my way up as a performer, I would often get put as swing, because my brain just likes to work in that way. So I was swing or understudy. And through that, and also whilst teaching at the Zoo Nation Academy, because they have an academy for students from like 6 years old to like early 20s, to train them in all kinds of hip hop styles. After teaching there as well, Kate sort of was like, oh, would you be interested in dance captain and that kind of thing? And that worked its way up to then becoming sort of her assistant, and then associate choreographer and director of the company. And I actually haven't, because of how now everything's happened over the last couple of years, I haven't done anything recently with Zoo Nation, but it was always a time of my life that it was the most challenging, both physically, mentally. It was great to be on the creative side, but to be on the creative side and the performing side, it was hard work. It was where I learned a lot of how to deal with a company, and have to put on your leader hat, but then also be part of the company. And try and be a few steps ahead of Kate in a way that I was useful to her as like an associate, so that you're foreseeing the problems before getting to her, so that she can just concentrate on the creation aspect of it. So that was about 10 plus years of working with that company.
Wow, that's cool. That's
Amazing.
sort of been where you must have cut your teeth as a choreographer and a leader of a company. I know Kevin can probably talk a little bit about too, walking that line of wearing your leader hat and your company member hat, being a dance captain and a swing at our show at Rock of Ages. But I'm curious to know when you sort of developed that sense that you wanted to choreograph, and do you want to continue dancing, or do you sort of want to stay on one side of the table, or do you want to just walk that line of doing both things? Do you have a preference?
I think the first part of the question in terms of the choreography, I think that was something that just I didn't even know what it was. I just always knew that I liked doing it. So to the point of, only child syndrome, getting a magazine in my mum and dad's lounge when they were, out at work or like still asleep on a Sunday morning, and pretending to read my moves off of the magazine to the company behind me, making up dances at the end of term with my like local dance school. It was always something that I loved. So I feel like even though it might have not been, internationally recognized, choreography has always been a part of just me dancing. I was really lucky that I was supported at my local dance school and my performing arts college in the fact that they saw that and they helped sort of give me projects where I could choreograph. So I think that will always be part of me, and I've loved the fact that I've now been able to grow into that, in my own right as well. I think the performing side will never leave me. Like, I love performing, and especially live performance. I just don't think there's anything like getting that audience reaction. But I do have to be careful now. I'm dealing with a lot of injuries. Like even just on Monday, my back had this horrendous spasm that hence why I'm kind of moving around now, so I don't stiffen up too much when I get off my chair. I would still love to perform if the right thing came along. I'm actually more interested in like maybe the acting side now, but I think, I don't know, maybe I'm being paranoid that I feel that there's a bit of a stigma for, can you still perform whilst you want to choreograph, direct? And I'd love to get into creative directing and have to deal with a lot more elements and see what the melting pot was like there. But to think that I was never going to perform again, that would make me sad. But I don't need to perform, all the time now. And my body just, to speak honestly, as a performer, my body wouldn't handle it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we're all about breaking stigmas here at the Pod of the Podcast. All three of us are performers and hosting a podcast right now. And I'm a journalist as well as a performer. There's no reason why you can't do everything. Yeah. I mean, that's at least working hard to figuring out how to do it. I don't know. Ellyn's a host, a podcast, a trivia host and a Broadway performer. It's Kevin teaches and performs. It's cool.
Carrie-Anne, our last question, we kind of always sort of end with this. So we look at this season and we see that these 9 incredible women were hired to kind of bring the show to Broadway, choreograph. It kind of makes me sad that it is such a big deal, because it is such an anomaly, and I love celebrating it, but there's part of me that hates that we have to celebrate it because it should just be the norm. Yeah. But hopefully this is, you are part of this generation of women that are, breaking molds and changing the industry. So this is sort of a 2-part question. How do you feel like you are part of this movement that's changing the industry to be more female forward? And what does this mean for representation, and kind of where do we go from here?
Do you know what? That really hit my heart for a second, because I don't put myself there, but you say that and it's like, of course, I'm a female and my name is on a Broadway show and a West End show. And I think, like you say, we shouldn't have to celebrate it, but I feel, in a way that, like you say, it should just be the norm. And I honestly feel like, book whoever is right for the job. I'm also not a person of like, oh, you have to book me because I'm female. It's like, book the right person for the job. Absolutely. But I think it's crazy. And Kate has said this before as well, that, in an industry where so much of the percentage is female, how little of that percentage end up leading, the companies, or leading the choreographic front or the directing front. And I think it's super important, because I think just in our world in general, I've never felt too much like I've had to fight to have a female voice heard. I've maybe just my set of circumstances growing up, I've not had anything to really challenge that. But I do feel really strongly about females just accepting who they are and not having to rise to any of what this world or this social media think we should be, and being able to tell their side of the stories. And I think a female and a male's perspective are both valid and are both interesting, but I just feel like we hear the male side a little bit more, or things might be written from a male side a little bit more. Like even when you look back to in every part, book history, filmmakers, it is more male led. And is that just the nature of the fact that, well, do we go back to, well, males were the breadwinners and, yada, yada, yada. But why does it have to be that way? Should a man feel any less for raising his children at home? No, he shouldn't. Like we shouldn't have to think of any of those things. And I feel, super, super proud that, when Michael's article came out, and I was like, like I hadn't even like looked at that or connected those dots. And I was like, that is incredible. And I would love to, if nothing else, empower women to just be and go for the things they want to do, like you say, regardless of what the stigma might be out there. And a big thing I would love to change is just also what is quite an old-fashioned industry, I think, of like who is applicable for a role and why, whether that's come down to like a physicality thing, or obviously we all know when you're going for a role there are certain things you'd have to adhere to, but when I teach, I'm very passionate about people finding themselves and feeling okay with that, being fit for them, knowing what their language to speak is and not just kind of what you're being taught, and just really holding their own, so that, when they then move into the theatre and have to be other people, or if they're standing behind an artist, they're moving and reacting and holding themselves in a way that is true to them.
Mm-hmm.
I just really rambled for ages then, sorry.
That was beautiful though.
No, it's a great answer. And I agree with everything you say. You're just going about working how you always have your whole life, and all of these amazing things have happened because you're talented, not because or not in spite of or because you're a woman, but because you're very talented, obviously, and you have this like great show. But I just hope it's crazy because you say nine women, and it truly, I mean, Michael has done, when you actually see the numbers in black and white, it really is very
staggering statistics. It is.
Yeah. And I don't feel that way either, because I feel like I'm always around creative women, but they're not always, when I think about it, they're not always necessarily in a power position, but I think of them as I admire them. But the numbers are just, when you see the numbers, it's a little bit daunting, but you're changing the game. You're definitely a part of history, especially this year, part of Broadway history. So it's just...
Guys, you make me cry on air.
That's what we're trying to do. No, we're not. Of course not.
But it goes down to the sport of everyone as well. And I think it's in terms of people's mindset change. And that's all around, isn't it? It's the theatre goer, it's the theatre makers, it's producers, it's everyone. And, and that article was everything. It really meant the world. And yeah, I think everyone's got a responsibility to push forward and support. There's enough room for everybody, so let's just support and push forward together.
Yeah,
that's so good. Thank you. And thank you for plugging the article. If you haven't read it, you can go check out those staggering statistics over on my blog. It's nycdancenews.com. The article is called the Broadway's Remarkable Year of the Female Choreographer, and it details the crazy, stunning facts about the fact that of the 14 new musicals that were coming to Broadway this year, 9 were choreographed by 10 different women. Well, Carrie-Anne, you are wonderful. So wonderful to hear your thoughts on everything. A champion for artists and an incredible choreographer and leader. We thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. Also, I guess it's time to do a little. Say it again.
I said, thank you for having me. It's been so much fun.
Oh my gosh, of course.
Can't
Yes.
wait. I was so excited. We just can't wait. It's so good.
Yeah.
I've
Cannot
only
wait for it.
seen things on YouTube.
Yeah, we cannot wait for it to come back. We cannot wait for Broadway to come back, and for theater to make its grand re-entrance back into the world. Carrie-Anne, for everybody out there listening, where can people follow up with you if they want to follow you on social media? What are your social handles?
Sure. It's Carrie-Anne Ing. So it's my name with like NG at the end. And it's Anne with an E, people. Anne with an E.
And with an E.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay, make sure you follow Carrie-Anne on her social media handles. Also, you can check out, as I've mentioned a couple of times now, Broadway Trivia hosted by Ellyn Marie Marsh over on Theater Mania and their Facebook and YouTube channels. As I also said, you can check out my blog, NYC Dance News and Culture, at nycdancenews.com. And we've got a ton more Women of Broadway episodes coming up here on the Pod De Deux Podcast, celebrating this Tony season that doesn't have a Tony Awards show right now, but is dedicated to celebrating this unprecedented year on Broadway. You can listen to Pod De Deux Podcast now, by the way, everywhere that you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all of them. It's probably there. Check it out. Make sure you follow us, the Pod De Deux Podcast, on Twitter and Instagram at Pod De Deux. And also head over to the Facebook page, give us a like, and follow us there. And you can always find out what's going on at poddedeux.com. You can also watch this episode, as I have mentioned, also on our YouTube channel. And lastly, make sure you follow us. I am Michael Mahany on Twitter and Instagram at Michael Mahany. Ellyn?
I'm Ellyn with a Y, Ellyn Marsh, across the board.
And I am at Raponey.
At Raponey. You guys are awesome. Thank you, Kevin and Ellyn, for being the champions of dance that you are. I hope you're watching right now because everybody is doing a sensible, what do you call it?
We're the choreographers.
Everybody's riding Raponey right now. That doesn't make a lot of sense if you're just listening to the show right now. So make sure you watch on YouTube also. We will be back very soon with more of the badass women of Broadway on the Pod De Deux Podcast. We will see you next time. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.